I wanted to perform inside the vending machine. That sounds like I might have said that. I believe that I might have said that. I don't remember though.
From the very beginning of her career, Lady Gaga has been more than just a musician. She has been a cultural phenomenon. Her artistry transcends performance, blending music, fashion, and storytelling into unforgettable moments that demand attention. To say the night Lady Gaga stole the spotlight is to capture a truth that has repeated itself across stages, red carpets, and arenas worldwide. Each time she steps forward, she redefines what it means to own the stage, leaving audiences with not just a memory of a song, but of a spectacle etched into pop culture history. Consider the night she arrived at the 2011 Grammys encased in a giant translucent egg, only to emerge reborn into her anthem Born This Way. Or the sweeping tribute at the Oscars where her pure vocal mastery during The Sound of Music silenced critics who had once doubted her range. These were not simply performances, they were transformative statements, moments when Gaga didn't just participate in the night, she became the night. Her artistry commands not only applause but reflection, fusing shock, vulnerability, and emotional truth. When we speak of Lady Gaga stealing the spotlight, it is less about taking attention from others and more about her ability to elevate the very stage she stands on. Whether dressed in avant-garde couture at the Met Gala or seated beside Bradley Cooper for a raw and intimate shallow duet at the Oscars, she embodies a rare ability to turn fleeting appearances into cultural landmarks. This is the story of those nights, the nights when Lady Gaga didn't just perform, but redefined what performance itself could mean. The night was February 13th, 2011. Music's biggest stars gathered under the bright lights of Los Angeles for the 53rd Annual Grammy Awards. The red carpet was already buzzing with sequins, tuxedos, and flashing cameras, but all conversation shifted in an instant when Lady Gaga arrived. Not walking, not posing, but encased in a giant, translucent egg carried aloft by her team of latex-clad attendants. For hours, she remained inside the vessel, breathing through an air tube, unseen yet undeniably present. The spectacle baffled some, intrigued others, and captivated all. The symbolism was clear. This was not a celebrity making an entrance. This was an artist staging a rebirth. When Gaga finally emerged on stage later that night, it was to deliver her bold new anthem, Born This Way, a song about identity, pride, and unapologetic authenticity. The egg was no gimmick, it was a metaphor. Lady Gaga wasn't just performing music, she was hatching a movement. The performance itself was explosive, blending church-like grandeur with futuristic choreography. Surrounded by dancers in skeletal fashion and stark lighting, Gaga embodied her message of liberation. In that moment, the audience wasn't simply watching a pop performance. They were witnessing a cultural declaration. The egg, the costumes, the vocals, it was all part of a singular vision to challenge norms, disrupt expectations, and claim space for the marginalized voices her song celebrated. That night, Gaga walked away with multiple Grammy Awards, including Best Pop Vocal Album. But the real victory wasn't just in the trophies, it was in the conversation she ignited. By the next morning, headlines across the world weren't about who wore what, but about the woman who turned awards show into a stage for transformation. The egg entrance remains one of Gaga's most defining spotlight moments, perfectly capturing what makes her more than just an entertainer. She doesn't merely arrive, she creates moments that blur the line between performance and performance art, reminding the world that music, in her hands, is never just sound. It's a spectacle, a statement, and a story. Later that same year, Lady Gaga once again proved that stealing the spotlight was not an accident, it was her design. On November 6, 2011, in Belfast, Northern Ireland, the MTV Europe Music Awards became the latest stage for her to dominate. Arriving in a sculptural silver gown topped with an oversized satellite dish hat, Gaga looked less like a pop star and more like a living work of futuristic art. Every camera turned, every headline written, every gasp in the audience, all belonged to her. But her entrance was only the beginning. Gaga went on to claim the night's biggest prizes: Best Female, Best Song, Best Video, and the coveted Biggest Fans Award. Each acceptance speech reflected her signature blend of humility and theatricality, a reminder that beneath the layers of costume and persona stood an artist deeply connected to her craft and her audience. Her fans, the self-named little monsters, were not passive spectators. They were part of her movement, celebrated on one of music's grandest stages. Her performance of Mary the Night that evening was nothing short of operatic. Gaga appeared perched atop a giant rotating moon, dressed in a glittering red gown, her face hidden beneath the towering headpiece. As the performance built in intensity, so too did the sense of spectacle. It was not simply about the song, but about the world she created around it, a world that blurred the lines between reality, fantasy, and pure pop theater. By the end of the night, there was no question who owned the EMA stage. While other artists came to collect awards, Gaga transformed the ceremony into her personal canvas. She didn't just participate in the show, she was the show. Critics and audiences alike agreed. Once again, Lady Gaga had managed to reframe an awards night as a cultural moment. The 2011 MTV EMAs cemented her reputation as the artist who could take any stage, whether in Los Angeles, Belfast, or beyond, and bend it to her will. For Gaga, the spotlight was never something to chase. It was something to command. And in Belfast, she commanded it with elegance, defiance, and a vision only she could deliver. By 2015, Lady Gaga had already established herself as pop's most unpredictable visionary. But on the night of the 87th Academy Awards, she did something no one expected. She stripped away the spectacle and let her voice speak for itself. The occasion was the 50th anniversary tribute to the Sound of Music, and Gaga, dressed in an elegant white gown, stepped onto the stage not as a provocateur, but as a vocalist ready to prove her mastery of timeless classics. What followed was nearly 5 minutes of pure, unadorned performance. Her medley of The Sound of Music, My Favorite Things, and Climb Every Mountain stunned the audience. There were no shock props, no outrageous costumes, no theatrical eggs or satellite hats. Just Gaga, her soaring vocals, and the raw sincerity she poured into each note. The moment was transformative. For years, critics had dismissed her as a shock artist, someone reliant on spectacle to maintain relevance. But here, before an audience of Hollywood's finest and millions of viewers worldwide, she dismantled that perception. Her performance drew a standing ovation, and none other than Julie Andrews herself embraced Gaga on stage, calling the tribute a wonderful gift. It wasn't just a performance, it was a rebirth of a different kind. If the 2011 Grammys egg had symbolized Gaga emerging as a bold new force, then the 2015 Oscars tribute represented her evolution into an artist whose depth could no longer be denied. She showed the world that behind the theatrics lived a voice powerful enough to carry the weight of a cultural classic. The next day, the headlines were unanimous. Lady Gaga had stolen the Oscars. More importantly, she had rewritten her own narrative. No longer confined to the role of the avant-garde pop disruptor, she was now recognized as a vocalist of extraordinary range and emotional power. It was one of those rare nights in entertainment history where an artist doesn't just perform, they change minds. In that moment, Lady Gaga reminded the world that true spotlight power lies not only in the grand gesture, but in the courage to stand bare, unfiltered, and deliver excellence. And that night at the Oscars, she did exactly that. If Gaga's 2015 Oscars tribute proved her vocal strength, the following year revealed the depth of her emotional power. At the 88th Academy Awards in 2016, she took the stage to perform Till It Happens to You, a haunting ballad co-written with Diane Warren for the documentary The Hunting Ground, which shed light on sexual assault on college campuses. Gaga began the performance at a lone white piano, her voice trembling with both fragility and strength. As the song built, the stage doors opened, and one by one, survivors of sexual assault walked out, joining her hand in hand. Each bore words written on their arms, messages of survival, pain, and resilience. By the final chorus, the stage was filled with dozens of survivors standing shoulder to shoulder, while Gaga's voice soared above them in defiance and solidarity. The audience was visibly moved. Stars like Rachel McAdams, Kate Winslet, and Joe Biden, who had introduced the performance with a call to action, were in tears. When the last note fell, The Dolby Theater erupted in a standing ovation that seemed to last forever. It wasn't simply applause for a song. It was a collective acknowledgement of courage, pain, and the healing power of art. For Gaga, it was more than just a performance. Having spoken publicly about her own experiences as a survivor, this was personal. She used her platform not to showcase herself, but to elevate voices that had long been silenced. It was activism through artistry, performance as protest, music as a beacon of hope. The 2016 Oscars performance cemented Gaga as an artist capable of transforming entertainment into advocacy. Just a year earlier, she had silenced skeptics with her mastery of the sound of music. Now, she was moving nations with her willingness to bear the deepest scars of humanity and turn them into something unifying, even healing. On that night, Gaga didn't just steal the spotlight, she shared it. And in doing so, she showed the world the truest measure of her artistry, the ability to turn pain into power and performance into a moment of collective awakening. By 2019, Lady Gaga was no longer just a pop icon. She was a bona fide Hollywood leading lady. Her role in A Star Is Born had earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress and secured the song Shallow as the Anthem of the Year. But when she and Bradley Cooper took the stage at the 91st Academy Awards to perform their duet, what unfolded was more than a performance. It was a cultural moment that blurred the line between cinema and reality. The stage was stripped of glitz and spectacle. No elaborate costumes, no pyrotechnics, no dancers. Instead, the cameras followed Gaga and Cooper as they rose from their seats in the audience, walked hand in hand to the piano, and began the first notes of the song that had already defined their on-screen love story. What followed was 3 minutes of raw, unfiltered intimacy. As Gaga's voice soared through the Dolby Theater, Cooper leaned into her energy, their chemistry undeniable. They shared a single piano bench, faces only inches apart, singing as if no one else was in the room. The performance was quiet yet electric, understated yet unforgettable. When Gaga launched into the iconic final chorus, her voice full of grit and fire, the world seemed to hold its breath. And when the last note fell, the silence before the thunderous applause told its own story. Something real had just happened. Almost instantly, the performance became one of the most talked about moments in Oscars history. Viewers flooded social media with speculation about the connection between Gaga and Cooper, some convinced that what they witnessed transcended acting. But beneath the headlines and rumors was a deeper truth. Gaga had once again transformed an awards show into a living, breathing piece of art. The duet won Shallow the Academy Award for Best Original Song, but the true victory was in the resonance of that performance. It captured vulnerability, passion, and authenticity, the very essence of Gaga's artistry. Where past performances had dazzled with spectacle or shaken audiences with activism, this one captivated through intimacy. That night, Lady Gaga didn't just sing. She reminded the world that the spotlight is not only stolen with grandeur, it can also be claimed with quiet, undeniable honesty. And in that moment, sitting at a piano with Bradley Cooper, she proved yet again why she will forever be remembered as one of the greatest performers of her generation. If the Oscars showed Gaga's mastery of intimacy, then the 2019 Met Gala reminded the world of her unmatched command of spectacle. The year's theme was camp, notes on fashion, and no artist alive was better suited to embody it. Yet, even with such high expectations, Gaga exceeded them in a way only she could, by turning her arrival into a performance in itself, one that lasted 16 unforgettable minutes. She appeared at the top of the iconic Met steps draped in a billowing fuchsia gown, complete with a train that required several attendants to carry. At first, it seemed like a grand entrance. Impressive, yes, but expected from Gaga. Then, with a dramatic flourish, she shed the gown to reveal a sleek black dress beneath. Gasps echoed, but she wasn't finished. Moments later, that black dress gave way to another transformation, a dazzling pink column gown paired with oversized sunglasses, as if she had stepped straight out of a surreal Hollywood dream. And still, the performance continued. The final reveal came when Gaga stripped down to a glittering black bra, panties, and fishnet stockings, rolling a pink wagon filled with champagne and props as she struck playful poses for the flashing cameras. Each look was deliberate, choreographed, and theatrical, turning what is usually a red carpet photo op into a piece of living performance art. The entire sequence blurred the line between fashion, theater, and storytelling. Where other celebrities simply posed for photos, Gaga created an evolving narrative, a literal deconstruction of the Met Gala's theme. Every layer removed symbolized another facet of her identity as an artist: glamour, satire, playfulness, and bold vulnerability. By the time the performance ended, it was clear that the night and the theme belonged to her. Media outlets across the globe declared Gaga the undisputed queen of the gala. Critics hailed it as one of the most iconic entrances in the event's history. It wasn't just fashion. It wasn't just theater. It was a masterclass in how to transform a moment of spectacle into a cultural landmark. The Met Gala has always been about who can turn heads, but Gaga reminded the world that she doesn't just turn heads. She stops time. And in that 16-minute extravaganza, she once again proved that the spotlight doesn't follow her by chance. It bends to her will. From the egg at the 2011 Grammys, to commanding the stage at the MTV Europe Music Awards, from silencing critics with a flawless sound of music tribute, to turning personal pain into collective strength at the 2016 Oscars, Lady Gaga has shown the world time and again that performance is never just performance. It is transformation. And when she sat beside Bradley Cooper at the piano in 2019, or peeled away layers of fashion at the Met Gala in the same year, she reminded us that stealing the spotlight isn't about taking attention from others. It's about creating a moment so powerful that the world cannot look away. These nights are more than showbiz highlights. They are cultural bookmarks, moments when Gaga elevated music, fashion, and art into statements that transcended entertainment. At every turn, she has proven that true artistry lies not only in talent, but in the courage to provoke, to inspire, and to bear both strength and vulnerability on the world stage. Lady Gaga doesn't simply step into the spotlight. She reshapes it. She bends it, molds it, and turns it into something unforgettable. And whether she arrives in an egg, sits quietly at a piano, or struts across the Met steps in layer after layer of theatrical brilliance, one truth remains constant. When Lady Gaga takes the stage, it's not just a performance, it's history.